Let's try that again. But the one thing that really bugs me about Streamlabs is sometimes it forgets what plugin I have for my microphone, and it's so annoying. I don't unplug it, so why does it forget? I don't know. Anywho, let's start again. Hello everyone and welcome to Question Time. Tonight is a live stream where you can ask me any question you like regarding games development, Unreal Engine, whatever you want really. It's all on the table. we have to do is put your question into chat, and I'll try and catch as many as I can within the hour or so that we are here. Hello everyone in chat. We can see we have got a few familiar faces. Hello everyone. Hello Bartistus, Tyson Williams. Hello Zimmy Jim, Damien Wakeford, Anchor, Blue Planet. Hello. How are we all doing for this evening? Okay, so one thing I want to do before we get started. By the way, you can start putting questions in the chat. That's fine. I saw you on Blue Planet. We'll answer that in a second. One thing I want to show you is a game I'm working on at the moment, which is like a little fun little side project that I wanted to try and see what I could do, which is like a Zelda clone. And I'll get your opinion on something of what kind of content you'd like to see going forwards as well added to the channel. So let me just go over to here, and here we can see my sort of test sort of area for my Zelda clone. And the thing I wanted to get your opinion on is regarding UMG and widgets. Now, UMG and widgets, there's tons of stuff we can do in it, obviously. But how about, would you like it so if I was to take a UMG or widget, or like a widget design from a game, and show you how to make it look like that inside of Unreal? So, for example, our chest animation here, doing this sort of thing, making it pop up with the nice little graphic and things like that, making things hover and bounce around, things spinning twirly lights, things like that. Oh, you can't see it. Hang on, let me move this out of the way. There we go. I'll do that again. Hang on. Do it again. Okay, so yeah. So would you like to see something like this, where we go ahead and recreate sort of like graphics you'd see in games by looking at the actual game itself and recreating it as close as possible in UMG? Would you like to see something like that? I don't know. It'd be a weird little format because it's constantly like showing, almost like showing just like the workflow in between doing it, because there's nothing really new to see. It's all you see here is nothing new. It's just organized widget stuff. So it's sort of like making use of the various like boxes and panels and things like that to make it look like this, for example. Is that something that you would like to see? Because again, it's nothing really useful in terms of anything new to learn. It's just showing how to apply it. Would you like to see something like that? I don't know. Let us know in the comments. Always eager to see what you're doing. But yeah, this is my Zelda clone I've been working on. It's obviously very, 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 very early. There's also another thing I don't know if you wanted to know, like for another example of UMG stuff. If you look at the gem in the corner, I don't know if you'll see it on the stream, but it's got little sparkles on it. I don't know if you want to know how to do little sparkles through the image, for example. And it's just little things like that. So yeah, if you want to know about that, let me know in the comments. I see a lot of people are saying yes, they would like to see something like that. So it'd be a bit of a weird format, because it is not like it's something new to learn. It'd be more like, I want to make this, watch how I make it, or see that process involved, like how to actually remake these things. By the way, if you're curious, these are buffs. I can pick this up and it gives me a speed boost, and this one just sets me on fire. This will be a video coming soon, how to do buffs and debuffs like this. Okay, and this does damage, but the damage thing doesn't work yet because there's no damage system, so I get errors. And the last thing I was working on before I went live was the climbing mechanic. Yeah, which if you've seen my video on climbing, it's similar to that. I refined it a little bit, so I might go back and show you how to do improved climbing with a bit more IK involved with the hands. Yeah, we'll see. Anywho, let's jump into the main meat of today's live stream. Okay, so if that's something you want to see, I can experiment and try and put some videos out like that. Because I've wondered back and forth, like, would that be a decent content to see? If you'd be interested in it, by the way. Okay. So, first question. Well, I'll answer a few quick ones first before I go answering Blue Planet's one about getting a anime starter pack to use a different mesh. So, Livid, hi Run, does your $10 Patreon tier include all project files for every tutorial you've made on YouTube so far, or are they for tutorials made in that month? It's for every project file that's on there. Not every YouTube series has a project file associated to it, but a lot of them do. So yeah, there's like 30 file packs in there, something like that. But yeah, well, you make a playlist of these live streams. I keep meaning to get organized in my playlist. I'm really bad at that, so that's what I need to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and show Blue Planet's first question, which was the use. By the way, if you want to know how many projects I work on, it's just ridiculous. So many. So let's go ahead and put in our anim starter pack. There it is. And we'll put it into QT69. Add the project. And I'll also add a character here. I've got adventure character, which use this one. QT69, which I think this one's free as well. And the permanent free collection. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain it is. Okay, we'll let those come in. So my tip for this, by the way, if you're using Unreal 5, is if you're doing a third-person action game, load up the third-person template, because it comes with retargeters already set up for you. It saves you a hell of a lot of work. So yeah, do that first and foremost. Once you've got that going though, we've got our animation starter pack here, and I want to use my Adventure Man mesh here. Okay, on. Let load and pile the shaders. I'll move this back up now. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna make this guy work with those animations. So you've got a few things you can do. The easiest thing to do is if they share the same skeleton design. Okay, it's important they must share the same skeleton names and things like that. You can right click on these things and go to skeleton and assign skeleton, and you can choose a different skeleton for the mesh. You don't have to retarget or anything like that. But I'll show you the retargeting method as well. So I want this skeleton, and to make sure it's correct, you should see no red names in this. Okay, so if there's no red names in there, you're good to go. And hit accept. Okay, and we go in here and hit save. And now you'll see I've got all my different animations here for my character. Okay, using those animation starter packs. So that's a simple method, okay? But if your skeletons don't match, that's where you use the retargeting system. So if we wanted to do that, and we'll do it with a different skeleton, we'll do it with this number. We'll do it with number 2, the topless one. We'll go into our, well, not topless one. We'll just go into animation starter pack. So you got the other way around, where you make the you change the animation skeleton over to the mesh. Match the meshes one. So you select all your animations you want to use. So it's all those minus this, this, and this. Yep. And you right click. No, I've got one still in there. Turn off the blend spaces as well. Right click. There you go. Retarget animation assets. Duplicate and retarget. This is why I say use in Unreal 5 the third person template, because it comes with these retargeters already for you, which makes this process a lot easier. Because if I choose here UE4 many to UE5 many, or UE5 many to UE4 many, I can retarget those pretty smoothly. I can also do retarget a UE5 skeleton to another UE5 skeleton, whatever I want to do. But let's say, for example, I've got this to, I want to make this work with the UE5 many first of all. So you click on UE4 to many to UE5 many, and you'll see here you got all these meshes, okay? And if I go and choose, I don't know if this will work, this, if I can skip this step. Hang on, let me see if I can. 402, and we'll give it a new folder. Put a new folder. Okay, retarget. This may not work. See? Yep, it did. So here we got these ones, which are now belong to that skeleton. Okay. It's not perfect. It needs to be. Yeah, because I skipped a step. So the reason why I skipped a step was because I thought I can get away with it. But if I go and delete these, and let's put them back in. Yep. Okay, retarget, duplicate retarget. I'm going to choose the UE4 to UE5 manning, and you can keep this as is. And that's because it's going to match different bones, like that. I'll just retarget that. Okay, and there they are. But these now will use a UE5 mannequin. And if I go ahead and do these again, retarget animation assets, duplicate and retarget, I can then choose the UE5 manning to UE4 manning, and just change this one into the UE4 one that this guy's using for the full O2. So you like doing that sort of way around. Retarget. Bit messy, but it saves a lot of time. Okay, and then they all are. So what's good one to look at? Probably idle. Right, reload shotgun. There you go. Okay. So it's going to look a little bit better. Okay, so that's the way around it if you want to get around it that way. It depends on what direction you want to go in, basically. Okay. But remember, you can only do the mesh change skeleton if the skeletons match. So bear that in mind. Okay. Next, we've got a question from a mustache. How viable would you say it is to use and modify the values of the default character movement component for movement orientated games? How would you mean? Hold on. So you open up a character and you get a character movement component as part of that. Do you mean you want to edit the actual component itself? If you do, you have to go into C++ and do it because it's a source thing. But you can change these values to whatever you like if they're in here already. You can do what you want with them. And also, by the way, if you see it in the list here in the detail panel, 99% of the time you can also change that in runtime and blueprints as well. So yeah, if you can give me more information about what you expect, Mustache, that'd be great. Victor NR, could you explain the use of soft object references, the ones you can select as a variable type? Yes, I can. So for those who don't know what Victor's referring to, is if I were to go in here and say check this to an actor here, you'll see object reference and class reference. So I'll explain these whilst I'm here. So object reference is anything that exists in the world already, so it's spawned in the world, it's already there. Class reference is something that isn't spawned in the world, so it's just a reference to a class itself. It's not actually a particular instance of that class. And then you've got soft and object and soft class. So what soft object reference and soft class do is they basically will be a reference to an actor or to an object that may not be there yet. Okay, so basically what it's going to do is going to attempt to do it, but if it doesn't exist, it won't throw out an error. It'll just try. It'll wait for it to become, and wait for it to exist, and then do its thing. This is particularly useful when you've got things loading in at different times at the load of a game, because you can't guarantee when something's going to load in before something else, especially when you've got different hardware running at different speeds and so on and so forth. So it is used. We call it asynchronous. Basically, so it's just going to look for a class or an actor, sorry, that may not exist yet, and that's when we want to use that. It's mostly used for loading things. Soft class reference, I actually don't know. I've never actually used this. It'd be the same sort of thing, like asynchronous loading, but a class is going to exist always because it's there. So I don't understand when that would be the case, but I don't know, could be wrong. But yeah. Async loading blueprint. It could maybe yeah. I said I've never had to use it. So Dadgeek UK. Hi Ryan, how can I adapt your inventory container system to make a combiner widget that lets you drag 2 input items for the inventory, then click to output a new item dictated by the first 2. Wow, okay. That's probably going to be a lot more to show in like an hour or so. Or at least it'll probably take the whole hour. But okay, so I'll give you the rough gist of it. I won't do the whole setup. Yeah, okay. So if you are doing something like the Minecraft furnace as you're describing here, okay, so if you went in and made your structure for your items, and then in here we had name, description, so nothing like out of the ordinary. You should have one of these, icon, and so on and so forth. But if you're doing something like a furnace, for example, and you want to know what the furnace is going to do to an object that you put in there, that's different from a combination. Combination is if like you can combine any 2 together to get a different result. I'll show you both solutions, but let's say you do the Minecraft furnace thing. Okay, so in here you need to give it details about what it will do with the furnace, and you probably need 2 things on it. So you need a new variable, and the first variable will be hooked result, and that will refer to a different item ID. So that'd be a name here. Okay, this will refer to a different item inside of your table. Okay, the cooked result. And the same goes for like I don't know, anything else you can do, like crafting result, whatever. You have the name output there, and you may have another variable in there if you want to do like a different time based on how long it's going to take to cook. But let's just assume it's going to do the same time for everything. But that's the cooked result, and it outputs this. So in your furnace, for example, you'd put that in there, and once the timer finishes, it'll give you this item and add that to inventory. Okay. Now, if you want to do a combination where you can combine 2 items together to get an end result, then you need a different setup. So in here, and that's like combining any 2 items. Try and combine any 2 items. So an example of this would be if we add a variable to this, and it would be combination results. Okay, and this would be a name again, but this would be a map. And it'd be a name, and the output here would also be a name. Now it's quite confusing, but basically the left-hand column is going to be a key, which would be the other item you can combine this with. So if I've got a red herb and I combine it with a green herb, the value on the right here, the other name, will give me the item that the resulting item will be. So in here you'll have a map set up for different combinations you could have. The left-hand one is who you're combining it with, and the right hand side will be the end result of that combination. Okay, and you can make a list of how many you want in there too, so I'll show you that in a second. But that's how you do like a combination type thing. So let's make the data table, and I'll show you that last little bit there. That one. So if I was making a new item here, say this one is green herb, and give it a row name green herb, and so on and so forth. But we're going to add another one in here. This will be a red herb, and then you'll have another one which is maybe like super potion. Okay, so if I go to my green herb here and go to combination results and click on the plus, I can then go in here and type in the name of the combination here. So red herb is the other one I'll combine this with. So red herb. And then from the output here, I'll just type in the one that's going to be given to me. So you go super potion. And let's say I want to combine this green herb with another green herb. Put that in there. And I can output here strong, we would say green herb 2, and this will give us a strong green herb. and that would be the result of 2 green herbs being combined together. Okay, and so on and so forth. You just add whatever it is. But when you do it this way, you want to make sure then you can also do it the other way too. So, well, I've got this combining with a red herb. I want to go to my red herb and make sure I've got the inverse of it also, otherwise it won't make sense for the logic of the game. So I'll put in green herb here, and this will output the super herb. Okay, and that's kind of how that works. Okay, next up, who we got next? Question: how to communicate between widgets from Blue Planet? Interesting question. So there's a variety of ways, but ultimately you have to think of it like a chain. Okay, so actually, I'm going to show rather than build an example, I'm going to show you a working example. Back to my Zelda clone. I've got it in there for the buffs, and I'll talk through the process of doing that. Okay. Okay, so in my Zelda clone, let's go to the map. So an example of this working is with the buffs here. So when I walk into a buff, it's going to add a buff icon to my screen, and that buff icon is going to deplete and take away my buff when it's depleted. Okay, so I'm both communicating to the screen, and the screen is then communicating to my thing. So how does it work in here? Okay, so let's go for an example of that. So when I walk into anything in here, I've got to get something onto the screen. Now, I know that's my end result. When you want to put something onto the screen because of something you did in game code, it's best to start at the other end and work way back. So this has got to get to a buff. So let's go to the buff icon. Okay. Where'd I put it? Did I leave it in here? No, where'd I put it? Ah, there it is. Okay, so here's a buff slot. Okay, so this is the actual icon that gets spawned onto the screen. So I start by designing this, and I'll say, okay, I now know this. It has to know what buff it needs to show. And the way the buff system actually works is that there's a buff actual actor in the scene. So I'll just get hold of the buff actor here, the buff effect, and make that a variable I need to see. And I'm using instance editable and expose and spawn here to be able to communicate into here, say this is your value, and then it just builds the graphics up based on that value. Okay, so the buff slot then I now work up. Okay, so the buff slot needs to be in some sort of container so I can display multiple buffs all together. So that would be in a buff tray, and the buff tray here, we've got 2 containers, one for buffs, one for debuffs. Again, you'll see that working here. I'll create buff, and you see buff effects got going there. I know I have to tell the buff tray to add a buff, but I have to know which buff to add. So again, it's going to need to know the buff effect class it wants to add. So that's what that's doing there. And you can see how this is working. So basically, this is constantly being exposed all the way up. So this buff effect here is being exposed from the slot up to here and being exposed to this function. Now the buff tray is always on the screen as part of my HUD. So if I go to my player HUD, it's up here in this corner here. So it's always there. Okay, so that's there. Great. That means if I want to access any functions from it, I have to first of all get access to this player HUD widget. So now I know I can get to my buff icon all the way from my player HUD. Now the player HUD I've got being made in my player controller. So I now know it's in my player controller. So to get access to all of that, whenever I pick one of these things up, go to the parent class here, you can see here what we're doing. If I find it, it might be on the actual class buff effect. Hang on. Because the way this works is when you walk into it, it just spawns the effect onto the player and attaches it. But if we go to the buff effect base, there we go. Yeah, so here I'm getting the controller, passing to the controller, getting my HUD, getting the buff tray, and then calling the function on the buff tray about what is the effect I want to add. which is then going to feed into the buff icon and show it on the screen. Okay, so we've got that direction of gameplay going up. And that buff effect is linked to a reference to the actual world, and that reference has a timer on it based upon its lifespan. I'm using that lifespan to feed a progress bar to show it depleting. Okay, and when it's destroyed, it removes itself from the buff tray. I go to my buff slot, go to the graph here. You can see here, on my construct, I've got my buff effect, and I've done a binding here where I've bound the event on destroyed to remove it from the parent. So it's listening out for when the effect has been tied to has been destroyed, it will remove itself from the screen. Okay, and so event dispatchers like this work very, very well in helping that communication to and from different actors and various other things like that. So my tip is always to work backwards. So you know the start, you know the end. I've got an ability. Let's say, okay, you're doing I think you mentioned like a hotbar thing for like a horror game, for an action game. The hotbar slots. Okay. So the hotbar slots here will just have just showing a reference to some arbitrary thing you've got in your character, which is storing what abilities you have. They're not tied to the UI whatsoever. They're tied to your character. So all the information that your widget should be only displaying information that is a part of the game. Okay. So that hotbar is actually in code on your player, for example. So then when I push a button, I'm just referring to my skill system and say, fire the skill that I've assigned to slot 1, whatever it is. And then that will fire off. And that's going to then communicate to, I know it has to communicate to my UI for my hotbar. So I work backwards. I go, okay, let's look at my hotbar, look at my slot. That slot needs to know which actor it's got tied to. It also needs to know the actor when it's been spawned in. So I've got those two things. That'll go to a hotbar itself. And then that hotbar is going to be part of a HUD. And that HUD's going to be part of the player controller. So I now know the link between my player character to the controller to the hotbar. Okay. So obviously I've skimmed a lot, but hopefully it makes sense. I always find I find it easy to work backwards. If I know the end, I know the beginning, it makes it a lot simpler. I'll run out of drink. Okay. Next question. Vinny Guerrero is asking, hey Ryan, quick question. Do you have any tip or tutorial to make a ragdoll get up properly? I haven't got a tutorial on it, but I've got a couple of tips. So when you're Pokemon Zelda clone thing, that's it. So a couple of tips is when you go into ragdoll, there's a few things you have to be aware of. Okay. Let's make a quick ragdoll button. Set collision enabled, physics only, and then we're going to simulate physics. Anything else? Let's tell the mesh here to make sure we set up the collision presets already. That's already done. Okay. So if I go ahead in here and push 1, yeah, I fall to the floor. Okay. So here's the first issue you got to solve. Okay. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to go to my capsule component and turn this on to be visible in engine in the game. Sorry. So hidden game turn off. Okay. So here you can see my capsule. Now to demonstrate this even further, I'm going to go up high and jump off. When I do this, take note of what happens. Okay, my capsule is no longer attached to my mesh, and that's because the mesh has been set to simulate physics. When you simulate physics on any sort of mesh, it will separate from its root, so it can freely move about without any restrictions. So if I was to turn simulate physics off, in other words, to get back up and animate back up, I will have a problem where these two will no longer match. To demonstrate that, I'll do the 2 button. So yeah, change that to 2. We're going to tell our mesh here to do the opposite of this, basically. So turn collision off and no longer simulate physics. Okay. Let's do that again. Okay, there's my mesh go, and if I push 2, got the first issue is they're separated out, which is no good. We don't want that. Okay. The next issue you'll see is that the Ragdoll was stopped. The animation's got into this pose here, which is it's like T pose but rotated. So you got that issue to dissolve. So first issue is getting the capsule onto the mesh location. That's the first thing. So the way you do that is you have to first of all detach the mesh from the capsule. So when I push 1 here and I do collision, all that, I'm actually going to detach it completely. I'm going to get mesh, detach from component, and it's going to keep all its stuff. Then I want to, when I push 2, want to move my character collision to where the mesh is. So I'm going to do move component 2, and we'll put this in between these guys. And we're going to move the capsule component, which is the root component, and this would be a relative location. Now the relative location is important because the mesh currently isn't attached to us, so we can't just get its relative location. So with the mesh here, we're going to take this and we're going to get its location in the world. We get world location, and we need to do an inverse transform of its location. Yep, that will transform that location from world space to local space. And you just need to get the current actors transform. Okay, so we're going to move that there and plug that into target relative location. And you put in the time here. I'm going to put in like, I'll leave it at 0.2 actually. Okay, so when I push 2, my capsule is going to go over to it. When it does go over to it, I want to reattach my mesh. So I'm going to go to mesh here and do attach component to component. And I want to attach to my capsule component. Okay. I might have to do it the other way. Put this at the end. I'm not too sure. We'll see. So let's go in and test that out now. So let's jump off the ledge here again. 1, off I go. I push 2. Oh, didn't work. What happened there? It may be because when I detached the mesh, this reference no longer existed. So what I'm going to do here is promote this to a variable, and that'd be, I'd leave it mesh 0. That'd be fine. So when it detaches, the component isn't lost. Okay. So, and I'll just swap that out for these ones here. So mesh 0. Do it that way around. Do that. Okay. 2. Oh, why is it doing to 0? That's going to 0, 0, 0. So that means it's getting an invalid thing. How did I do this? I've done this before. What did I do last time? I swear that's what I did. World location, inverse transform, to transform. And 2. There's a mesh reference that didn't remove. Yeah. No, that should be still fine. It's this bit that's confusing me. Why is that not working? That's 0, 0, 0, that bit. Like this mesh doesn't exist. Let me just do a quick validate get here. And only do this if this is valid. No, it's moving because it's valid. So why is that coming out as? Oh, sorry, my bad. Stupid mistake. You can tell it's a late night. The capsule component's relative location is the world location, so I don't need to do the transform here. Do that. My bad. My apologies. Capsule's relative location is the world, so that makes sense. Right, this will work now. Okay, so I jump, ball, slide, and I move my character over to here. Now, when I've reattached it, you'll notice that if I look around. Oh, there it is. You see it there? It's spinning around in my little body. It's kept it when I've reattached it. It's kept the relative distance between the two. So when I do this, I want to snap the target. Oops, target. And snap the target. Now, the rotation rule is one that's going to be weird because we don't want it just to immediately snap to that position, because you get this problem. 2. Okay, you get this one. And as you know, when you put in a character mesh, the route is different from wherever else you want it to be. The easiest thing to do is, rather than attaching it to the capsule component and have all this trouble here, is attach it to this arrow component here, but we're going to offset it. So if I go and make another arrow, part of this capsule, and rotate this thing around, I want it at the root there, at the base of the mesh there, compile, and use arrow 1 instead of my capsule component. Okay. The location rotation will be more accurate. 2. Okay, so now I'm back to, well, not back to, why is that going that way? Attach component, snap to target, arrow 1. Yes. Oh, sorry. This. So I need to make sure this has got the same settings here. So I'm gonna, oh. So even though it won't look right in here, it needs to match the same as that one. So 270 there. There we go. Okay, so now he's back to normal. Now, the actual get up animation part, that's the tricky bit, because he's going to be in a weird position like this, okay? So I don't have the animation, but you need an animation of them getting up, either from the front or back, doesn't matter. Oh, well, I guess it does matter. But in this case here, right now, I would want to get up from the front animation. I don't have that, so I can't show you. But what you do is you once you move the capsule over to your character, or you can even keep it attached to the character the whole entire time if you want to, it's up to you. But what you want to do is then tell it to play a montage on the mesh of the character of that character there, to do it getting up, as you turn off its collision. Okay, and then you do an attachment after it's finished its animation. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's always going to look a bit janky, so be aware of that. But if you use it as a montage, it will blend it in, so it should look a bit okay. But yeah, bear that in mind, it can look a bit janky by accident. Okay, let's go. Who next? Okay, Overcore, when will you finish Fireteam series? Really looking for the Steam upload. Steam upload. It's always ongoing. So I've got 3 or 4 videos already uploaded. I just need to make the thumbnails for them and write the descriptions out. They'll come out for the patrons this week, hopefully. And I'm recording a few more tomorrow. I'm constantly just recording stuff to it. There's lots to add to it. So yeah, plenty more to come to that. But if you want to know a bit more about the Steam upload and how all that stuff, I could skip to that bit if you wish and make a separate little thing on that. How to upload to Steam. It is a pain in the butt, and because another pain in the butt with it is I'm not too sure legally how much I can show of Steam behind the scenes. So what I'm probably going to show their official documentation and tell you what's wrong with it, because some of it's out of date. So we'll talk about that process there. So I just want to double check and read the legal bits and make sure I'm not going to break any laws by doing it. But if not, I'll just grab their public documentation and just read and tell you what part of it is relevant, what part isn't relevant, what's changed, because it's not up to date. I was bashing my head around it for a long time. Okay. Does Steam multiplayer work if we don't upload our game on Steam? Yes. You just have to have a Steam client open. You still have to have the game added as an app on there. But yes, it can do. But if your game was already added as an app on there, you might as well add it to the marketplace. So you still have to pay the $100. The orders for the win. Could you continue the big map tutorial and show us how to add points of interest on a big map? The map thing is on my whiteboard for remaking. So I'm going back and remaking some of the older series. And map stuff is up there. We're making a big map and doing stuff on there, making some fun things on it. So it is on the to-do list. I can't give an estimate of what it's going to be. As a lot of you noticed, I've fallen behind on my backlog of videos just because of a variety of issues, including just being so busy, and also a lot of personal things going on in my life and regarding me and everything else. So things have kind of fallen a little bit, but we're trying to get back up to speed now. Things are hopefully better. But yeah, so it is working back up to it. That's all. Joker, do you know how much character poly counts do I need for blockchain game, web-based game? Well, blockchain doesn't matter. Web-based stuff. So with web-based stuff, I would avoid using Unreal for native web stuff. However, if you are adamant of using it for web stuff, use pixel streaming. If you don't know what pixel streaming is the idea of another computer running the game, and it streams a video of it to a web browser. Similar to how like Stadia, Xbox Cloud, Luna, is that the Amazon one? Whatever. Those streaming things, it's similar to how they work. So you can, but you still have to pay for a host to do this for you. So yeah, bear that in mind. But pixel streaming is the way you're going to go really with it. As native HTML5 support is kind of gone from Unreal, so kind of meh. But if it's pixel streaming, then you can make it look as much as you like, 'cause it's just video. Howdy Red Squirrel, how you doing? Vlad, hey Ryan, how would I make a random generator for a type of mission so you would either get a retrieve mission, timed mission, higher score mission, or actual story mission? Is this possible? Probably the easiest thing to do. I'll just do my character here. is when you're on whatever bit of code you're doing to spawn a mission in, use a switch on int, and we'll just do, you got 4 things there, haven't you? So we'll do 4 nodes, 4 tracks, and then you just do random int in range. There's quite a few ways of doing this. This is just one. So 0 to 3 is the range. You know, pick one of these, but random. That's probably the easiest way of doing it. Joker, so in pixel streaming like that, I can use max poly count characters right for web-based. Yes, you can. It depends on, like, obviously the hardware that is doing the streaming part. But yes, in theory you can. Dog Gamer 238, will you do tutorials on Epic Games online services? Yes. As for when, I don't know, but yes, that is in the works. Again, on the whiteboard. I did attempt it when it first came out, but it was so painful to work through the documentation, well, lack thereof of documentation to make it work. But they've improved that a little bit. They've improved the integration into Unreal a little bit. I know a little bit more about online stuff now as well, personally, so we're going to give it another stab and do it together. Sergio, is it too hard to set up Steam achievements without external assets? By external assets, do you mean the icons that you can use? You can make your own icons if you want. Yeah. Red Squirrel, is there a save and load video in UE5 in the works? It's on the list. So the way the save and load system will be done, it'll be showing a multi-save slot system that you can also customize, edit, clear, remove, things like that. Store information about your saves, like dates, when you and where you saved it, where in the game you are, and storing that information. So it's going to be a lot more full-fledged and things like that, as well as some talk about some tips and tricks on it. But it's on the to-do list on the whiteboard to revisit. But yeah. How to use materials in the UI button? Good question. And that is from Anchor. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make a UI button first of all. Okay, so a good thing to be doing when you start getting into UMG stuff a lot more frequently and a lot more comfortably is getting rid of the default ugliness of the buttons, progress bars, things like that, by creating your own custom UI materials. So let's take a look at this button, for example. Let's go and create a material for this. So we create material, we'll do button mat, and I'm going to go in here and let's first of all change this over to from a surface material to a UI material. That way we can use it actually in our UMG. And so you've got a few things you can do here. So let's do a very simple like gradient, for example. We'll do linear gradient and we'll put a V gradient in there. Okay, so you've got a very simple setup here. If I want to flip it round, do 1 minus, flip it round like that. Okay, and if I want to boost it so it's not completely dark down here, I can just do an add onto this and add 0.2, clamp it, and then plug that into the final opacity, and you get a nicer shade here. A subtle difference between the two different things going on there. Okay, so we'll do that. But when I'm making materials for my UI, by the way, I typically will make them all in white because then it makes it easier for me to tint them. So do the same thing I'd recommend, like that. So I'm going to do this, and we can now put that in here in the style. Go to normal, and I'm going to choose my button mat. Okay, so there's a very simple design there that instantly looks a lot better than the default one. Okay, and as I said, you can tint it to whatever you like here very easily based upon that. And this could be a texture as well. More on that in a minute. We'll go through that bit. But let's say I want to do now a highlight of this. Okay, so I'm going to click, let's say, make that a, let's make it a black button. Okay, so ignoring obviously the work I've done for the gradient, let's make it a black button here. Let's say I want to make the hovered effect of this to be a bit more interesting. So if I go into here and make a duplicate of this, and go into here and get rid of that. Okay, so button map 1 is going to be my highlight version of the button thing. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to do another gradient, but I'm going to do a radial gradient. So radial gradient exponential, and I'm going to put that into my final color. So by default I get this effect. Now I'm going to improve this a lot by putting in my my UV coordinates. This one, my center position, I'm going to change that. I'm going to put in at 2 vectors. I'm going to change this to be, and you see with a UV coordinate it goes from 0 to 1. Hang on. Yeah, 0 to 1. There you go. So if I want to get right at the bottom of the screen there, my X or red channel is going to be 0.5, and my bottom channel is going to be 1. Okay, let's put it right at the bottom there. And I can now change other things here. So let's go to my radius. I'm going to keep that as 0.5, which is the default of this. Density, I'm going to go and plug that into there. And 0 obviously is no good. We want to put in 0.5 maybe. You get a nice little highlight going on there. And that'll do me. Apply. So I've now got this effect being applied to my button. So if I go to here and put my on my hovered and do button 1. Now the hard part of doing this is it's hard to test this out easily inside of here. You can debug it in game time, but it's no useful. But what I'd recommend you do as an easy way around this is you just right click on the hovered, copy it, paste it into normal so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to change here my tint obviously down here, and why is that doing it like that? I have to compile it maybe. Yeah, there you go. So now you can see that hover effect going on here, so I can give it a nice little hover icon like this, and I can now put that back, copy that and paste that back on here. So my hovered effect has this. And I'm going to go to my pressed effect and paste it on there too. But I'm going to change the color here to a more of a yellow glint. Okay. And then on here, I can change this back to button map 01 and change that to black again. Okay, so now I've got this cool little button I can use for. So let's put that into my scene here. Blueprint, panel. Canvas in. Create my custom button design that I made. This. And let's just make it so I can see my mouse cursor and all this stuff. So get player controller. Set input mode to UI only. Set show mouse cursor, turn that on, plug these two in, construct. I can test this out. So let's go into my character here, just do it here, and play, create widget, player HUD. Oh, did I lose people? Yeah, cool. And put that in there. And oh, hello. And then add. We do add to report. I'll save. Okay, so there's my thing, and you can see I can hover over it and I get a nice little effect on it now instead of the ugliness. But what's really cool about this is that we can add moving textures and things like that to our materials to make them look even more interesting and make them a bit more unique. We can make them borders and boxes to make different corner pieces and things like that. So there's loads of little things you can do with it. But do check it out. There's loads on there. And if I do go ahead and make the UMG specific type videos and series of videos, where I'm just going ahead and just remaking interfaces from games, you'll see a lot of stuff going in that. That I do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. So yeah, keep an eye on that in the future. Okay, we're going to answer a couple more questions before we call it a night. By the way, those materials you can also use for text. I usually put a little gradient on text to make it just pop a little bit more, but you can also do it on that. Next question. Ali Sina, hi Ryan. I wonder if there's a way to connect PC to mobile with replication or any other way, so PC acts as a server or it be a cross-platform. I mean, you can make your PC act as a server if you can make your phone connect to that server in your online services. But you're looking at a lot of work to do that. Depends if you want to dedicate your time to it. If you want to do cross-platform stuff, you're better off using things like Epic Online Services, which support that out of the box. So I'd start with that if I were you. Start taking a look at that. There's a hell of a lot to it. I will do a video tutorial or tutorials, if you want multiple, of the Epic Online Services, so we can see how that works. But I have to go through it myself first. Oh, playfab. You could do playfab stuff, but you're still looking at like a cost. Vlad, hi Ryan, is it setting up co-op animations like helping each other difficult, like Splinter Cell games where you co-op agents throw each other and things? So it's not entirely difficult. The best way to see this working is if you look at my stealth AI video. There's a video towards the end, an episode towards the end of that, where I show how to do takedown animation. It's exactly the same as that, but rather than breaking their neck and throwing them on the floor, you're giving a boost up, throwing them across the room, whatever. So basically you'll move your characters into position and then play animation on both at the same time, and that animation will be synced up and away they go. Yeah. And the last question, hey Ryan, from James Logo, how would you go about making an attack combo but have the last combo be random between 2 or more last attacks? Interesting. So I can't show this because I don't have the animations for it, but basically you'll need the last part of the animation to have the same starting point. So if they're doing a combo and they're going back to the third combo, that starting position must be the same for each animation difference, okay? And then when it gets that combo and you want to trigger another one, you just play you just randomize what out of like a selection of them which montage to play on that. So it's hard to explain it and without showing it, and I can't show it because the animations like that. But you can just do it like like you can make an array up of montages and randomize them, for example. So it like your last part of it would look something like this. Play montage, and the montage to play will be random array item, and then you do make array, and you'd add in, like, so if you've got 3 different options, you just add your 3 montages here and it'll randomize which one it's going to play. So something like that would be the end result of it. I would say I can't really show much. Anywho, that'll have to be the end of it, sadly, as we've run out of time. But we're here again next week, and if you like this video and you want to see more of my content early, please head over to patreon.com and consider supporting me on patreon.com/RyanLaley. You get access to the videos on demand of these live streams before anyone else, all the videos before anyone else, as well as many other benefits too. Thank you to everyone supporting me over on Patreon and YouTube members. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, so thank you so much. And keep an eye out for those UMG videos that I mentioned at the start of the live stream, as that's something that a lot of you seem interested in. So keep an eye out for those, as they'll be coming soon, hopefully. Okay, have a great evening, everyone. Keep well, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.